Hey everybody, it's time for another stream, and I'm starting an hour late, okay? So, yeah, sorry everybody, but I'm here now. So, hi everybody, it's gonna be my last stream till mid-July, because I'm gonna be busy in all kinds of different ways, and when I realized that, which was actually today, I just said, like, you know what, I probably shouldn't start Super Mario Brothers right now. So we're just gonna do a variety stream of different Game Boy games. We'll play a couple of rounds of Revenge of the Gator, and I've got all kinds of things on my desk. I've got Donkey Kong, Balloon Kid, Alleyway, Trip World, Pokemon Trading Card Game, Tetris Attack, Super Mario Land, and Solar Striker, which is more than enough to keep us entertained for the 2 to 3 hours I'll be streaming tonight. So let's get started with our first game. No Game Boy Night options. We're not going to try to make anyone's eyes bleed this time. But I thought this would be a fun one to start off with. This is the first time I popped in this game in a minute. Possibility. It's kind of interesting how, as a kid, like I did not have, well, I say I didn't play Super Mario Brothers as a kid. I only played I did not own an NES with Super Mario Brothers until like 2000, actually. Which is, you know, a long time after the NES era. Like, in 2000, I felt, wow, I am playing these ancient, you know, games from, you know, the closet of gaming history. But now it's like, now looking back at it, I mean, I was playing, when I got my NES, I actually ended up getting it repaired by Nintendo of America. And, thank you for your 20 plus watch streak. Yeah, first Saturday of June. And because I won't be streaming, I think now, this is the last scheduled stream until mid-July. It's very likely that Nintendo may announce an E3 equivalent, their big annual Nintendo Direct. We just had the big, you know, spring, Sony State of Play for PlayStation a few days ago. And yesterday we had Summer Game Fest, which is the closest thing to an E3 type stage show that exists anymore. Lots of games were announced, including games that I do plan to play on stream. Buying a Switch, of all the, to be completely frank, out of all the higher performance game systems on the market, Switch 2 is the one that's most likely up my alley. But buying a new one, even before the price hike that's coming, is at the bottom of my priorities list. But knowing that, I think, yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake's already out on Switch 2. Rebirth just came out within like last week or two, I think. And they just announced that next spring, I guess whatever part 3 of the remake series, I think it's called Revelations. FF7 Revelations is going to be out for Switch 2 on launch day. I doubt I'll be playing it launch day, but the fact that I won't be waiting like a year. If I play Remake Part 1 and 2 next year, I won't be waiting another year, because like with FF7 Remake and Rebirth, you had to wait a full year if you didn't own a PlayStation system to have a chance to play it on PC or other options. So, knowing that I will be able to play all 3 on the same system, you know, it does a lot more to make Switch 2 it sweetens the pot a bit for me, but it's gonna take some real big, blockbuster, can't-miss games from Nintendo to really get me to that'll be announced probably within the next couple of weeks at a possible Nintendo Direct that's speculated to take place. To get me to really, and even if it sweetens the pot enough for me to get it, I don't even care about saving the $50 compared to Switch 2's current price. Frankly, it'll be a matter of me wanting to make that large ticket entertainment purchase when I finish other things, like you know, purchasing things that, you know, investing in non-entertainment hobbies, things I won't necessarily be doing on stream, investing in things to furnish my apartment, because where I'm currently living does have, you know, some furniture bundled in with it. Not that I have much space to put furniture, but I'd have to buy some of my own belongings. I'll have to buy some, because of my living situation since I moved out of my parents' house. I'll be faced with buying some things, some obvious essential things that any person should have that I've never had to purchase for myself, because they've always been provided by the different apartments and roommates and whoever else I've been living with. So, yeah, of course I couldn't pull that off, but he still got pretty alright. Now, I don't know what that little devil helmet thing in the middle of the screen is. That supposed to be an alligator too? It looks like just some kind of generic devil character thing. And in the center, those are baby alligators. I wonder if some of I'm not a biology pro or anything, but I wonder if some of these alligators are actually technically crocodiles. I think it has something to do with the snout shape and the way the tail is. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll play. We haven't lost a single ball yet, and we've already been playing for like 6 minutes. We may get some new people popping in, because I timed the going live message on Tumblr to go off about 6 minutes after the hour, so that the way my Tumblr going live posts are for my Twitch streams, it's set up so that people who see the go live post can also see like my window, and they just press play, and there'll be like a preview of whatever frame was, I guess, loaded in at the time they loaded the post. So I wanted to have something a little more interesting on screen than just my countdown timer. So that's why Oh, okay. Yeah, I like how that element of the ball going into that gator's mouth got adapted into like a ball save mechanism for Kirby's Pinball Land. Alright. Yeah, this is of all the uses of this engine on Game Boy, the 3 times it was used, this, then in Kirby's Pinball Land, and then again in Pokemon Pinball. This is the time which, you know, I just consider that I could actually get out. I could add Pokemon Pinball to the list. I could. But it has a big, goofy cartridge with the vibration pack on it, and I don't have it on my desk right now. I don't see it anywhere on my desk. If it is, it's covered in stuff, because I don't have a lot of space to put things in my current apartment, which is why I'm moving. But yeah, I'll be very busy moving and preparing materials for different, you know, professional and recreational endeavors. So it'll be a minute before I'm back onto Twitch, unfortunately. Uh-oh, we, game overed. Eh. Alright, so while I play my second and probably last session of Revenge of the Gator today, if there's anyone in chat with any recommendations for... I mentioned the different Game Boy games I have on my desk right now, but if there's anyone familiar with my gameography and the Game Boy cartridges I'm in possession of, if there's anyone with particular suggestions as to what I might play next, I'm welcome to hear that. If not, I'm probably going to... yeah, I could go to Super Mario Land. It would be a little predictable, but... yeah, actually, I don't know what I'll do. We'll play a couple of rounds of Alleyway after this. Yeah, oh yeah, I am very excited to get my own kitchen. Yep, I'm happy about that. Now, I'm gonna have delivery meals at least that first week, and then the next week I might shift the number of meals I get, but yeah, I'm gonna be ordering 2 weeks of 5 meals a week. This is through Factor, by the way. But I'm probably gonna start transitioning over to HelloFresh, which I believe ought to be less expensive per serving, because I think the smallest kits offer like 2 servings, I think. So if you make one meal, I think you should have one meal for the day and then leftovers for the next day. So proportionally, it should all be a lot less money, which is as it should be since you're not preparing the food yourself. The one thing I'm very disappointed by with Factor, and I'm gonna mention this, because the main reason I'm ordering meals in the packs that I am is basically in anticipation for that first couple of days to have something decent other than ramen to eat while I'm moving into my apartment. But then aside from that, I'm gonna have some meals with me for my hotel room at Anthrocon. Because, yeah, $50 for 5, high quality, fresh microwave meals. They're not frozen meals, they're microwave meals. They make them and then send them out. So 5, what I would consider, if this was served to me, the Factor meals for the most part, if I was served those on a plate, I would consider that a restaurant quality experience. But I would want 5, and the cool thing is that I could eat them, have a decent restaurant-like quality food experience in my room, because honestly, Anthrocon is, and any convention as I go to, it's a lot louder and boisterous and rambunctious and a lot more social interaction spoons getting used up than typically, so I don't necessarily want to go out to a restaurant. Now, if I ran into some pals or met some people and let's go to that taco place or something like that, I wouldn't be against that. Not at all. But what I would do is go ahead and make sure that... Oh, and the Clackaboy is saying, since I use the VR model, I guess we won't notice anything different once I'm in my new place. Oh yeah, and I do... I filmed a live-action YouTube video, it's something directly for YouTube. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's true, you won't notice a backdrop. And I may or may not have streamed at other locations than my current apartment without mentioning it. Something to consider. But, I do look forward to... Yeah, and the tradition of these bonus games definitely carried over into Kirby's Pinball Land and into Pokemon Pinball. The sensibility of how to go about designing these mini-games. No! Oh well. Yeah, that didn't last too long, but it's better than nothing. Yeah, and I do, once I bring back the story elements, the things I want to do, they're kind of opposites, ironically. I want to, get this current model that you're seeing now, I want to get it rigged up for use in VR chat, which I'll have to pay someone to do for me. And then aside from that, I want to, I'll also introduce, maybe reintroduce more frequent face cam streams. Which, the main reason I'm not doing face cam streams more often is because right now I only have one webcam set up, so it's tricky for me to just seamlessly jump back and forth. But I've had it in the past since I started VTubing, where I could just jump back and forth between being on camera and using my model. Right now it's kind of tricky. Like right now, my webcam is dedicated for my motion capture software. But then, if I had a second camera, I could just, press a button on my Stream Deck and, like, hey, it'll be me, flesh and blood me in front of a webcam. And I especially look forward to bringing back webcam streams in the context of my lore and storyline, because the storyline of, the two H's currently in play, because H of Redemption Center 1, Human H, is in the penalty zone right now. H2 is Griffin H, who rejected the advanced controller's offer to host H1's old stream. H3 was killed along with everyone else on his Earth by the Box Hill meteor. H4 just was how funny is that? He fell asleep playing Revenge of the Gator Pinball, and so Adcon had to move on. And H5 is, Lunarian H. I'm obviously not in character at the moment. I'm just using the model to do my stream. So, yeah, Lunarian H and Adcon had a little deal going that was conducted off-screen, partially off-screen and partially in Tokipona. So some of my viewers may not be aware of what they were up to. So I do want to continue that storyline. It will eventually involve the return of H of Redemption Center 1. Possibly eventually Griffin H. And other H's not yet mentioned. So that'll be very interesting. And I do look forward to doing the writing for that. But like I would sooner spend the money right now as far as, so that's something I look forward to. But as far as buying a Nintendo Switch 2, I would rather buy a word processor now for like $500 than buy a Nintendo Switch 2 now for $500, oh no, for $450 before the price goes up. Like equipment to, I'd rather buy a musical instrument for, you know, $500 than buy a Switch 2. And not even something that I would be playing on stream or something. These are things I want to do to hobbies and things to enrich my personal growth, you know, outside of Twitch. Oh, that's Moose H. Yeah, Moose H is just yeah, he's just some art, just an alternate version of you know, my persona. He's not a character with any unique lore. Though I just did that for the heck of it, and if I remember correctly, I commissioned that in the middle of July. But you know, when it comes to like Lunarian H right here, like Lunarians are a custom species, I really have no path forward except for if I want an accurate representation of H as a Lunarian, I had to custom commission this, which was not cheap. But when it comes to versions of H that are actual traditional that are just actual established anthropomorphic animal species, like, oh, it's Moose H. And Griffin H is a little more complicated, potentially, but, like, I could get, like, there are Griffin VTuber 3D models out there that I could probably buy, hire an artist to make the custom Lunarian spots for me if I wanted to, and do my locks and my glasses and make the outfit for me. And it would certainly be a lot less than having someone rig and animate this model from scratch just for me. You know, I mean, I guess the more obvious choice would just to have like a reindeer or caribou H, and have someone do the Christmas lights on his antlers, and that would be like the Christmas exclusive stream. It's kind of funny how the Advanced Controller storyline was introduced really as part of my Christmas 2023 special when we were watching those Christmas cartoons. It's kind of interesting how just the way it all played out. And yeah, but I started really going like hard on preparing all those different elements once I knew when I could have my Lunarian H model ready to use on stream, and I had to sit on that for like 3 or 4 months, but I had the Lunarian H model maybe 4 months before I actually started streaming with it. Yeah, I could have actually just started that a lot sooner, but I wanted to do the storyline and everything, and I think that was a really special experience for those who were there for my 4-year anniversary stream. And then what did I do for my anniversary? Yeah, you know what? It just occurred to me. Yeah, now that it's June, I've been streaming for 6 years. Wow. 6 whole years of streams. Is that the end of my game? Yeah, that's the end of that. Yeah, no point in actually bothering to enter my name, because it's going to go away once I turn the game off. Alright, so my next choice, it's not going to be very inventive or creative, but you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Why bother being original? Yeah, I'm glad I think nowadays, and one thing I do, I haven't had the time or the space to actually lay out books and everything to really, Yeah, we're playing Super Mario Land. The first Mario game that I personally actually like owned and got to play. I rarely got past World 2. Only once actually within the 1990s, only one time did I get past World 2. That was a combination of not having that long to sit down and play through the game, but also in terms of in terms of just my skill as a gamer at the time. Yeah, but I'm glad you had what you call an epic experience, Kalaka Boy. You know, I accidentally stumbled into something that I didn't mean to. I accidentally stumbled into some AI thing that's available to YouTube channel people. Yeah, I saw the colorized version of this, and if it's the one I'm thinking of, it has this awful, like quote-unquote, like, fixed Mario sprite, and I don't like it. Like, it really ruins, I think, a lot of the charm of how simple the graphics were in this game. And honestly, from what I saw, it doesn't even look like the larger, more detailed model works well with the way they designed the platforming and the hitboxes for the platforms and enemies. So I've just been uninterested. You know, but it's kind of funny. I do have a thing, like, on the other hand, I feel like I've seen a colorized version of Super Mario Land 2 that actually does look interesting, but first I would have to beat Super Mario Land 2. We got up to the final stage in Super Mario Land 2 back in like 2022 or 2023. Why did I wait to shoot the fireball at that guy when I could have actually, it's a super ball, excuse me, when I could have just crashed into him with my invincibility power-up. Alright. There we go, nice. Nice trick shot there. I think this might be the first or second time all year that we've even played this game. I think we did a Game Boy variety stream at least once earlier in the year, where we played Super Mario Land, but it's been a while. You know, as a kid, I usually wanted the fireball more than anything, because as a kid, I guess my priority was to have more power-ups to survive the stages, as opposed to having more lives. And even though I've consistently beat the game without needing to burn through all my lives, I do, usually if I, will go for the more one-ups more lately. Now, Clock was saying they have the colorized version of Super Mario Land 2 as well. Yeah, the Super Mario... yeah, they may be multiple colorized ROMs, you know, fan hacks of Super Mario Land 1. But if the one I'm thinking of, do you have the one where they made, like, the bigger Mario sprite? Because I really don't like that version. Yeah, this was not only my first experience with Game Boy, and my first experience with really sitting down to know Mario, but yeah, this was really my first time playing Game Boy, my first time with playing and getting to know Mario, and it was my first first contact with Nintendo. I was familiar with Mario. I remember when the Super Mario Bros. Movie came out, wasn't that interested in it because I just wasn't that interested in Nintendo because I didn't have the games. I had Sega already. And I didn't have Game Gear instead of Game Boy. You know, because I had Game Gear for a couple years first. I didn't choose Game Gear first because I liked Sega more. It's just that, because I knew there was like NES and Super NES, but I just didn't really care that much. So the commercial for Sonic the Hedgehog with the Anita Stokes character was my first contact with... It was the first time a commercial for a video game actually got me excited. I was aware of the Sega system, as in like the Sega Master System. I remember some commercials for that I saw on tape as a kid. Then I remember commercials for you know, NES games and Super NES, including the original Legend of Zelda. I remember the commercials being like, your parents help you hook it up. Like, it is this disclaimer. But, Clock was saying they have the version that kept Mario in his original appearance. Ooh, that actually might be a little interesting. But, Collective was saying they heard on a new version of Switch 2 is coming out. Is that the one with the price increase? No, the price of Nintendo Switch 2 is just gonna go up. If there's a new version of the Switch 2 hardware, they've yet to announce it, and I doubt they will. They're still trying to get people to adopt the original Nintendo Switch. But the price of Switch 2 is just gonna go up because they want to make more money off of it. I think it goes up I think that price increase triggers sometime in September. So I have time. If I want to get it for $450, I have time to do it. I have the cash on hand to go out to Best Buy right now and get it if I wanted to. I just don't want to. There's things that have nothing to do with gaming and nothing to... I keep blowing myself away because I keep forgetting that that elevator exists, and then occasionally I just discover it accidentally. Alright. Yeah, we got a 1-up. Nice. Okay. You know, I think my headphones are finally... I need to get some new in-ear headphones because I'm using this pair of, like, iPod wired headphones. And the fact that they're iPod headphones lets you know how old these cables are. Oh, I done goofed. I forgot to go down. Uh-oh, looks like somebody has redeemed a Sodor lore reading. And we won't have too many more opportunities for these until July. So let's go ahead and honor that real quick. I might come back to this one later on, you know, when we come back. But we can start hearing about the Mid-Sodor Railway. Now, when the Mid-Sodor Railway was first introduced into the television series, it was one of those whoa moments where I was completely blown away, and I was like, I had this sense that the island of Sodor was older than what they were showing in the show to that point, and that there were different engines in different parts of the island. But the Mid-Sodor Railway, when they introduced them in the show, it is in the past tense. Like, oh, long ago, before many of these other engines that we know were even built, you know, there was this other railway. And so seeing the stories about that was really cool. But here we're going to read the deep lore from the man himself, the beginning of the Mid-Sodor Railway. A memoir and appreciation. The Mid-Sodor Railway, now closed, had a lifespan of only some 50 years. But its influence on Sudrian affairs has been wait a second. Okay, there we go. But its influence on Sudrian affairs has been long-lasting. From the first, it was worked as a mainline system. It pioneered the use of bogie coaches in the island. No less than 8 of these, together with 3 Mid-Sodor locomotives, have survived and are in regular service on the Skarloey Railway. The Mid-Sodor lives on too in the prosperous 15-inch gauge Arlesdale Railway, which uses its former trackbed and stations, and also in the railway up Colvey Fell, which later enterprise was a Mid-Sodor brainchild in the 1890s. The Mid-Sodor were the first to realize that there were dividends to be had from the visiting industry, and deliberately set out to encourage foreigners and cater for holiday makers. By doing so, they turned what was then a mere trickle into a stream, which stream, now greatly increased, has become a vital factor in our island economy. This book is, in the main, a survey of present-day Sudrian affairs, and though the Mid-Sodor is, alas, no more, such a survey would be incomplete without due acknowledgement to the foundations laid by a gallant little railway in the past. So that's the introduction to the Mid-Sodor Railway, whose lore and history, I'm sure will take... I never actually read through this Island of Sodor book in the way I've been on stream, and I would be surprised if the greater lore and implications and revelations. I mean, I learned the Colvey Fell Railway was one of my favorite. It was one of my favorite elements of the Island of Sodor, and I learned so much about it. Yeah, we destroyed that Sphinx and hopped on the button to move on to the next world.
Thank you, Mario. Oh, Daisy.
Uh-oh. That's not Princess Daisy. I mean, who could have guessed, right? Yeah. Alright. We're going to go for the 3-up down there. Nah. Even praised like a buzzer sound. But yes, we've warped down from a UFO here because of the space. Yeah, there's sort of outer space and supernatural themes to this Mario game in particular. You know, the reason I died there, our first death of the game, usually I beat this without taking any deaths, is, I realized that, I was trying to check out what's going on. Like, sometimes the scoreboard very slightly glitches out, and I don't know why. Alright. Okay. Oh, okay, at least we can... Yeah, we can't, No, but I was saying about my headphones. My iPod headphones are finally dying. I'm barely getting any audio out of my left-hand side. Was I asking for suggestions on earlier? Do I have Kid Icarus for Game Boy? You know, I feel like I might. I actually might have it. I don't have it handy, though. That's not... I was very specifically going to cover Kid Icarus. It's actually one of the games I was considering working on. Like, starting, you know, learning the history of it. There's not a whole bunch of lore or media coverage of the first Kid Icarus, so the historical part wouldn't be too long, but we'd look through the manual, see if we could find any contemporary reviews or coverage of it. But, yeah, if anyone doesn't know what Kid Icarus is an NES game that runs on the same engine as Metroid. Sort of like Metroid's sort of sister series. And it's sort of based around a sort of comedic parody of Hellenistic, you know, Greek and Roman mythological tropes. Like, for instance, the Japanese name of the game, I believe, roughly is something to the effect of Palutena's Mirror. And Palutena is a sort of a transliteration of Pallas Athena, the goddess, transliterated sort of phonetically into a form that, you know, the Japanese language is more compatible with, and then relocalized into English. So the game's basically named after a character inspired by Pallas Athena. Yeah, but yeah, the NES game's great. I never actually got very far, beat it until the Nintendo 3DS 3D Classics version of the game. Nice. Double digits with our lives at this point. Yeah, it's nice, unlike Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, the scoreboard on top of the screen in Super Mario Brothers doesn't even display your, it doesn't even display your how many lives you have left. Yeah, we're here again, but this time we could actually, like, collect all the coins. And it's really here, like, the coin collecting sound effect is not, I hear it as the faintest whisper in my left ear, through my, my iPod headphones, which I really only use while filming YouTube videos where I need to hear the sound of what I'm saying or what I'm reacting to, or with, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of thunder outside of my building. So there's a chance that the power might go out. We'll see what happens. If the power goes out, I'm probably frankly just gonna go ahead and call the stream, unfortunately. But I just want you to know, don't worry about me. It's not I haven't been abducted by aliens or anything like that. It's just, you know, some you know, internet connection failure due to inclement weather. Okay. And of course, in this platforming heavy area. Now let me catch up with chat real quick. It's interesting music for that this game doesn't use any of the music we associate with Mario from the NES game. Yeah, I believe there's been some interviews with former Nintendo employees that, without saying it, basically implicate the idea. They basically present Shigeru Miyamoto, without explicitly naming him, as actually having been opposed to the Game Boy project and sort of leading a faction within Nintendo to get the project canceled. Complete with like his stories where he apparently very specifically sort of was whispering in Mr. Yamauchi's ear to encourage him to not to approve the project. So I guess when they actually went ahead with production of Game Boy, if these stories are true and I'm interpreting them correctly, this is the first Mario platformer that did not feature Shigeru Miyamoto's involvement in its development or conceptualization. This was a project led by Gunpei Yokoi himself, who was the chief engineer behind the Game Boy. And the funny thing is, with Mr. Yokoi, the late great Mr. Yokoi, is that he apparently, his original concept for a handheld Nintendo game, was actually something. Now there's no turbo feature. You can't just hold the button. You do have to continually mash the button in order to play these side-scrolling we have an automatically scrolling side-scrolling shooter as a level in a Mario game. Yeah, a UFO parking lot at that. Yeah, I have an underwater shipyard for all these flying saucers. And this is supposed to be in the Bermuda Triangle, so maybe we know now where some of those infamous lost ships and aircraft have gone. Yeah, when you destroy those octopi, they release 2 balls in vengeance. I didn't mean to sound silly with that, but you know, that's just what happens. Yeah, I somehow I kept missing them. It looked like I should have been getting their hitbox, and I was like, wait a second, I thought I could destroy the... Yeah, imagine going down here. For some reason, the enemies apparently spelled Mario's name out with coins. Yeah, we're up to the boss now. When I played this for the first time, I got very panicky and I just went straight for that button in the corner. But if you keep your cool, he's very easy to defeat. Still got another 200, nearly 250 Mario timekeeping units on the clock still.
Daisy!
Hey, wait a second. That's not Daisy. Alright. Doggone. Alright, now we get this, this stage right here is the furthest I ever got as a kid. I was so excited. I told all my friends at school about it. Because I don't know of any of them having gotten this far in the game either back then. But yeah, this was the, to finally get to things that you'd only seen on the box art and in the manual was very exciting. But this is, the point at which you get a very steep, escalation in difficulty. And yeah, this area is called Easton, which is meant to be a reference to Easter Island. Yeah, the first world of this game is called Birabudo, which is a English transliteration of Pyramuda, which is just the Japanese form of the English word pyramid. Yeah, I can't, Yeah, I'm not getting the rest of those coins. Hey, what are we saying goodbye to? Me. Until about midway through July. I'll be moving, I'll be attending conventions, I'll be visiting friends, and I'll be busy in my professional life. And also starting some new hobbies that I'll finally have the space for with my new apartment. So, and new hobbies, some of these are... A lot of these are... These involve, like, learning an instrument, studying English and Tokipona, and studying English, which, you know, is the language that I, you know, grew up speaking and have an educational bachelor's level background in. Then learning and studying more Tokipona. Yeah, so studying more English, studying more Tokipona, learning the Shavian English alphabet on top of that. Then I will be reading more, which I don't have space to even get out a book and properly get comfortable and read a book. I'll be writing more, more poetry, more fiction. I'll have space to do my professional writing. Then I'll be learning a new instrument, which I've actually ordered. I ordered a stock. Oh, doggone! I ordered a stock instrument, but it's with some of my motor control challenges. It's been difficult for me to play that. So I'm having some custom modifications made to that instrument. One part of which has already been completed. Oh, come on! That should have counted as landing on that. No, I'm not quitting streaming. And if I ever formally leave Twitch forever, it will be very different from this. Unless I leave streaming from Twitch forever due to some kind of crazy, real-world messed-up reason outside of my control. Hey there, Talco. Yeah, I'm still streaming. I'm just going to be, quitting, and I'll be, doing other things. I'll be busy preparing for my move and moving into my new apartment. Oh, doggone. I will also be, starting some new hobbies, but really just more setting up my... Oh my goodness, I'll be setting up my new apartment, moving all my stuff. I have to travel out of state just to get the rest of my belongings, because, I was gracious that the last place I lived with, my roommates have hung on to a lot of my belongings, my old roommates, so gonna have to go out of state and get my stuff. Even though I've been living, you know, like hundreds of miles away where I'm at with the stuff I have now. Yeah, I'm not gonna leave streaming of my own will. Now, the exception, if Nintendo does announce a big, like, E3 equivalent, you know, late spring, early summer Nintendo Direct before July, this is my last scheduled stream. I may have an unscheduled stream. If Nintendo announces a big Nintendo Direct, I'd like to cover that live if possible, if I am able to cover it live. You know, if my streaming setup is even assembled wherever I will be, and different factors like that, I do plan to cover the, I do plan to, okay. Zip across here. Yeah, I know, I appreciate, Bill, Talico, Clackaboy, for all your, and anyone else who may be, standing guard in the Silent Squad at the moment. I do appreciate. Okay. Okay. We made it. Yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm not quitting. Hey, Skillium, how you doing? Yeah, I'm just assuring everyone I'm not leaving streaming. I'm just gonna be gone for a little less than a month. I'll be attending conventions and moving and other exciting business. So I'd rather just I don't want to do streams that aren't up to my standards. And you know, I started this stream an hour late. It's just gonna be just this Game Boy variety. Yeah. And when I come back, I'll enjoy it. When I come back, I'll finally be covering the Super Mario Bros. Series. I plan to play through the entire series. If I cannot beat the 8-bit NES versions, which is what I'm going to be playing primarily, then I will move on and go to the All-Star versions of those games. And if I do that, you know what I'll probably do? You know what? If I can't beat, I'll give myself, 3 streams for each game, and if I can't beat it by the end, I'll just move on to the next one. And then after I beat Super Mario World, then maybe I'll just play through the Super Mario All-Stars versions of them. And with their infinite continues and their save function, I know I would eventually be able to beat those. Yeah, it's funny, 2 is the wonky one. That claim applies equally both to the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 and the Western Super Mario Bros. 2. I know, I'm just glad that the decision was made at the time to adapt Doki Doki Panic, which started development as a Super Mario sequel prototype anyway, into a Mario game to release in the Western world rather than the Japanese Famicom Disk System Super Mario Bros. 2. Because if it was not for that decision, we never would have gotten... Doki Doki Panic would have forever remained trapped on the Famicom Disk System. Because the characters in Doki Doki Panic are not owned by Nintendo, Nintendo would have never been able to re-release Doki Doki Panic without a very expensive deal being worked out with, and that's the part of the reason why Nintendo released Doki Doki Panic. Well, they released... They released Super Mario Bros. 2, the US version, as Super Mario USA, specifically to put Doki Doki Panic, which they invested a lot of time and money into developing, but now that they have this Mario-fied version of it for the Western markets, they can now re-release that in Japan, so it provides a Nintendo with a way to re-release and profit from their game that they otherwise would not have been able to if the American Super Mario Bros. 2 had not been made. Oh, doggone. That was just like a matter of being off by mere pixels. Like, I feel like if I was a pixel away, that would have counted as a hit against the enemy and not me, but didn't quite pull it off. Now, if I cannot get a fireball power-up... What are you doing? Why is my arm... yeah, okay. My arm is being funny for a minute on my model. Yeah, I'm looking forward to my next schemes for streaming. So I want to do the Super Mario 2D series. I'll probably use that as a springboard to start working on the Yoshi's Island games. And we were talking, I think, last stream about, why is Super Mario World called Super Mario World 2? Well, I didn't realize this. In the Giga Leak, it turns out that some of the early development files for Yoshi's Island actually called it Super Mario Brothers 5. And that was interesting to me, because in Japan, Super Mario World had the Super Mario Brothers 4 subtitle, but never before had I actually was I aware that Yoshi's Island was subtitled Super Mario Bros. 5 in the pre-development, in the early development, internal documents. And I find that especially interesting because only in North America and Europe, I believe, did Yoshi's Island even have the Super Mario World 2 subtitle. So in America, Super Mario World... Yoshi's Island was subtitled Super Mario World 2. Yeah, I'm just gonna YOLO it. Yeah, it was subtitled Super Mario... Okay. In America, Yoshi's Island was subtitled Super Mario World 2. Meanwhile, in Japan, Yoshi's Island did not have the Super Mario World 2 subtitle. Meanwhile, in its internal development files, when it was being developed in Japan, it was actually subtitled Super Mario Bros. 5. Which is very interesting. And little did anyone know at the time that... Actually, this is the one time when I got the This is actually, I'm happy with that. Usually I'm aiming for the extra 1-ups, but it's kind of funny how the phrase 1-up originated from pinball tables, where there would be lights that say 1-up and 2-up to signify whether the first player or the second player, for the 2-player pinball games where you'd alternate, it would say 1-up for player 1 and 2-up for player 2. And I guess there came to be a tradition of using the 1-up light to indicate that you got an extra ball, and somehow that developed into the idea of 1-ups meaning extra chances in a video game. Yeah, this is, those enemies are based on a traditional, Chinese mythology's, take on a vampire. And so they keep, springing back to life for a few minutes after you defeat them. Okay, you actually can knock them out entirely with, Super Balls. I kind of forgot that. Oh boy, if I could actually beat Super Mario Brothers as consistently as I could beat Super Mario Land, I feel like my whole streaming career would have taken such a very different course. Like, I'll be straight with all y'all, like, Super Mario Land, and as far as 8-bit platformers without save functions go, Super Mario Land and Sonic the Hedgehog are the only 8-bit platformers I could beat on demand, like, consistently. In both cases, it takes about an hour. Oh yeah, the 6 golden coins, Super Mario. So Skillium, are you familiar with my background with Nintendo in terms of, like, when I first got Game Boy, how I first played it? I know I've told that story several times, but have you been around when I've told it, or have you seen it in VODs or anything like that? Yeah, I know what you meant. It's like, no, I mean, not really. Okay, so I knew about NES. I knew about Super NES. I knew that Super Nintendo was more powerful. I was passively aware of, like, Atari, because when I was a really little kid, the Atari 2600 was on its absolute last legs in terms of being kept around as a budget platform aimed at budget-conscious families to get for younger, less tech-savvy kids with, you know, they're less discerning of graphic quality, and with the single button and joystick, it was a good choice for a little kid's first game system, honestly. And okay. Oh no! Did you see what happened? That was so silly. If I did not defeat that enemy accidentally, I actually would have, yeah, I actually would have been okay. Okay. That's our first death in the Chai Kingdom. Has the advanced controller been up to no good during his hiatus? Oh, he's been up to something. We'll, catch up with that, when we resume the advanced controller storyline, which will be, hopefully, by the end of 2027, I hope to have at least 2 episodes of continuing the advanced controller storyline. Oh, and I stumbled into this AI thing that's only available for YouTube creators for their own content, where you can talk to an AI about your content. I would not have intentionally tried to find this. I just accidentally discovered it. But yeah, Google, if you're a YouTuber, I guess of maybe a certain size perhaps, yeah, Google's AI has extensively analyzed and watched your videos. So I'm like, so as though I'd like was some big YouTuber with like a following and stuff, I was actually asking it, like, what is the advanced controllers, I was asking it things about my lore and my videos, and it was giving me detailed answers, and it felt like peeking into a world where I had a big enough of a following, or like a, you know, of a fan base or viewer base, that people actually, like, made fan wikis of my, you know, on my lore, and stuff like that. So, it unfortunately, like, actually kind of lured me into wasting hours talking to this AI chatbot about my own material. And it was interesting, especially talking to it about the autism videos, because it would give really detailed... It gave really interesting assessments of my... I did not know you could defeat those by jumping on them. Hey, it's the cute little snake guy. But we have to kill him. Sad day. About its perception of my videos, and whether it's the advanced controller storyline or of my barrier aggression and my other autism videos, the things it would have a very, very detailed analysis and assessment, and it would talk about how I vary from other autistic self-advocates that make YouTube videos, and how my style of argument differs. And basically what it said was that while... Oh, doggone, that was just clumsy. I should have just been a few frames more patient, and that wouldn't have happened. It basically said typical neurodiversity YouTubers make content that's more about affirming people's identity and lived experiences, and encouraging people to feel like they belong within the autism community. Oh, that was just lame. But my content is more about, I guess, examining medical documents in order to validate people's belonging in general. I guess I'm more about reason and using concrete documentation of different symptoms and clinical presentations, and how those relate to people's possible experience. I did it again. I don't feel like I've ever had problems with that section. Yeah, it's more about, I guess, using hard evidence to validate or to explain different experiences people may have, as opposed to, I guess, appealing to emotion and, yeah, so it's very interesting because I guess a lot of the arguments I see from a lot of critics of not just of neurodiversity, but of the idea that high-functioning autism, as many would call it, is even clinically legitimate in the first place, is based on the idea that, someone like me, who they would consider a high-functioning autistic self-advocate, care more about sharing feel-good stories and romanticizing autism as a superpower while downplaying any elements of disability or impairment. Whereas, I mean, for all its flaws, it's objective in terms of its assessment of me. It's not pleased to... The AI presents me as kind of being the opposite of that, where I'm doing my self-advocacy based on, I guess, more clinical or scholarly constructions of autism and related disabilities. So it's a very interesting assessment to hear from a source outside of myself, because I would like it if my autism videos got more traction and whatever, but I'm happy for the support I do have and the viewership I do have. The one thing I regret is not having a larger amount of more voices. The very few negative responses I've gotten are people just dismissing me on the grounds that I'm an autistic self-advocate, therefore I'm not a legitimate source. Like, if I was really autistic, I wouldn't be able to talk about these things, is basically the logic that gets thrown at me. Or I'm just some kind of radical neurodiversity proponent that's trying to, I guess, whitewash or present a curated image of autism as just a quirky superpower, and that's not... Yeah, I know you have, and I know you've enjoyed them, and I deeply appreciate, but most of the positive feedback are from people who have enjoyed my videos. So the AI chatbot within YouTube that only I have access to, it was useful from the standpoint of being able to... You know, it's interesting. It seems like I could actually, holding the button here releases an infinite stream of bullets, whereas that was not the case in the submarine level, and as far as I remember. There's no reason to try to go after that mushroom. There's no reason. There's no benefit to doing so. Yeah, those things are called glitter, and they are invincible. You have diagonally traveling bullet bills, which is, I think, the only time in the... That doesn't happen often in Mario in general. I think there are diagonally fired ones, but for the traditional ones to actually move straight like that is a very... Yeah, we could actually destroy the sparks. Alright, so... what I was getting at with the autism content is just... I wanted to have a source. I mean, I'd rather talk to a real person. I'm not a big fan of all this AI nonsense, but it was interesting being able to ask questions and get, like, I basically provoked pushback. I basically provoked criticism. Hey there, Reliat. How you doing? It's gonna be my last stream until, mid-July, actually. I'll be busy, with life things, and it's all gonna be fun, and, but I will be very busy. So we're nearly at the end of Super Mario Land. We'll play something else for a minute, and then we'll probably take our midstream break at that point. I doubt I'll be streaming. I didn't start the stream actually until 6. Yeah, normally I start at 5 EST. Oh, it's Bio Kinton, the boss of the Chai Kingdom. Usually I don't take this long to beat him. I guess his chickens have been, Do I have Metroid on Game Boy? Ah, that's a game. Some of my last memories of eating meat, are connected to Metroid 2 on Game Boy. And it's a very interesting game because it is a game, Metroid... Oh, it is... I can't remember the last... I basically don't die to the final boss. That was a very... I think that's the first time I've ever died to the final boss. Yeah, now I actually have to lock in just a tad since I can't take any hits now. But yeah, Metroid 2... Oh my goodness! Summer Game Fest in terms of the main presentation. I'm glad that, that new, that Gundam game looks cool. I'll probably frankly never play it. The new Attack on Titan looks cool. I never played it. The only Attack on Titan game I played was the one on 3DS, which was called Attack on Titan: Humanity in Chains. And, oh my goodness, why am I losing so much? My joke was that, I heard that game was bad. I'm like, oh, it's Attack on Titan. You're anime sword boys flying around with, steampunk Spider-Man gear. It's gotta be cool, right? And, so the joke I made was that, the game starts with an attack from the Colossal Titan, and the game ends with me feeling like a colossal dumbass for buying the game, in spite of the bad reviews. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear about, I don't care about Switch 2 enough to go out of my way to buy it before the price drop, though I'm sure the, Final Fantasy, Remake Part 3 being on Switch 2 from day one, combined with, nice, that's GG, y'all. Combined with whatever cool... The game's already announced, and that will be likely announced in a probable, soon-to-come Nintendo Direct, E3 replacement. Yeah, it's getting a price hike in September, but I'm honestly more interested. I would spend $600 now, and I won't... on something that might not have anything to do with video games or even entertainment. That's not even well, not entertainment, but just like more hobbies and enrichment things I do outside of, things I blog about or do on Twitch. I'd rather spend $600 on that than buy the Switch 2 at $450 now. By the time I'm interested enough, by the time enough games come out that I'd be interested in getting a Switch 2, I'd rather pay the $500 down the line than spend that money than save the price of a game getting it now and then just having it sit around collecting dust for the most part. Okay, so I hope you enjoy it. Switch, the Star Fox is one of those things that did sweeten the pot for me a bit. Yeah, just now mainline Mario, likely to be announced. You know, if Nintendo does an E3, an E3 equivalent, Nintendo Direct sometime soon. Yeah, this is a really cool track. Thank you, Mr. Hip Tanaka. Amida? What is Amida? What is Amida? Design and Amida. Is that meant to be media? I never noticed that before. Yeah, I know the rumors of the Ocarina of Time remake have been around for a while. I'm really torn. Like, I hope if they do an Ocarina of Time remake, it freaking better support the N64 controller, but the fact that Star Fox 64 is supporting it is a good sign to me. If they do thanks for the viewer streak, and even though I won't be on, everyone should still be able to maintain their viewer streaks when I come back in mid-July. Alright. What are we gonna play? What are we gonna play? We can play... Let's play... I know what I'll play next. I know what we can play next. Yeah, I heard it called on Pete Dorr's stream, someone called it Wife of War. So I've never been into the Pokemon Gold. Not today. Yeah, we're playing little more arcade and short platform type experiences for stuff we'll be playing today. Mom of Boy. Wait. I didn't intend to play Solar Striker. But, you know what? We'll give a Solar Striker a single run, and then I'll do my midstream break. Yeah, how about that? I did not even mean to play. I actually meant to put in Tetris Attack. Yeah, but so... This game has a copyright date of 1989, but it was actually not released until early 1990. Hey there! Hey, it's Hustino! And, Pete, Hustino was saying they watched Pete's VOD of that place he used to play yesterday. You know, I watched the... Oh! Hey there! Thanks for subscribing. I did not know you weren't subscribed to me. You're a regular in chat. Oh, no, excuse me. You were followed me. You just subscribed, which is like, whoa! I thought you followed me. I'm not even thinking about paid subscription. So enjoy your Lunarian H emotes. And by the way, everybody who watches my stream, if you want to follow me, and my follow alerts are anonymous, by the way. If you follow me, you will get to enjoy some free Doorworm emotes that everyone gets. But of course, if you follow me, my follow alerts are anonymous. So of course, you do not have to draw any attention to yourself. It'll be a mystery to everyone. And if you do want to reveal yourself in chat, you're free to do that. Yeah, so what we're playing here, this is a game that never got any kind of re-release on any virtual console or similar service, which is very interesting because this is essentially the only, like, vertical shooter that Nintendo has ever, like, developed and published that I'm aware of. And I'm surprised that, like, there was never on, like, say, maybe on Game Boy Advance. I mean, Game Boy Advance theoretically could have handled a Star Fox, an actual polygonal, like, Star Fox game akin to, you know, the one on Super Nintendo. But, like, that there was never a 2D scroller Star Fox game. It seems like the perfect franchise for it. Yeah, we got a lot of people in chat in the watching right now. But of course, whether it's just one viewer or 100, I'm deeply and sincerely grateful for all the support I've had, and I look forward to getting back to the streaming as soon as possible, as soon as I take care of all the exciting adventures and life milestones that I look to accomplish between now and halfway through July. So it'll actually be that third Saturday in July, because the first Saturday is 4th of July weekend, so I'll be busy celebrating in Pittsburgh. And then... Oh, okay. Yeah, this is fun. Yeah, we're doing fine. Yeah, this is... Yeah, an actual proper boss. Really with the end boss of Super Mario Land, really, if you could just, not so much with Biokinton, but with Tatanga and his final boss spaceship, if you just you could just watch the projectiles and completely ignore the hitbox of the ship itself, because he never like surges forward to actually strike you or anything like that. Yeah, so this is one of the very few, I think the only vertical space shooter that Nintendo's ever released, not counting some things even older like that. This like Space Fever for the arcade, and maybe Radar Scope. I think Space Fever is an actually like kind of scrolling. I never played Space Fever or Radar Scope. I just know there was a Space Fever 2 mini game in Game Boy Camera that was kind of an homage to. Where did it? Okay. Yeah, but I know that there is a. I was just thinking, is there? I think there's. I wonder if there's a color version of Game Boy, like a color hack of the Game Boy Pocket, because that would work really well with the Analog Pocket. Or actually, it could theoretically work with Game Boy Color, but it would be a. Oh, doggone. Yeah. Now, the fireworks that Lunarian chemists may engineer, it may be just as vibrant, but it may be somewhat engineered to be a bit quieter than the fireworks humans like to use, because they have a very sensitive hearing. Because, you know, yeah, we've got big ears, and they aren't just for show. Okay, we're up to the boss of the stage. Yeah, this time we actually do, more so than previously, have to keep our eyes. Yeah, the Gundam game, I hope it comes out on Switch too. It looks cool. And some Gundam games, a lot of the Gundam games coming out recently are very fast-paced, super, like, zip, 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 super, like, fast zooming around, like, and that's not what mobile suits are to me. That's not what Gundam should be to me. To me, like, Gundams, like, mobile suits are, like, 30-foot high, lumbering mechabots, you know? They should be heavy, they should have weight when they move, especially those Gundam series that are set during the One-Year War era, where you have, like, the very first ever combat mobile suits, so the technology should not be so advanced yet, where they're zipping around at lightning speed, doing acrobatics and the like. Only Char should be able to pull that off, and when he does it, it's pushing the technology of his mobile suits to the absolute limit. Only Char and Amuro should really be doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it looks like we've crashed a military parade of this planet that we are invading. The point of this game is to go to this planet that's threatened Earth with a single high-performance fighter and fight your way from the atmosphere to their cities, and go into the planet and eventually destroy the planet's core and destroy the planet itself. So there are some interesting moral implications to doing that, which, you know, Ender's Game, which I've never actually read, but I did see the movie with Harrison Ford. It did kind of explore. Yeah, a Lunarian rave would be funny, because you'd think it would just be they're mostly kind of straight edge, and because they hear so much better than humans, what would be a loud party to them, like, would be rather tame to human ears. Okay, come on. Yeah, these guys take a lot of hits, but they can only shoot forward, so they're not really a threat once they get to a... And I want to get greedy, try to take out that tank, and end up losing my power-ups. Yeah, we did. I was surprised how much reading material there was. There was a book that I found for this game, Solar Striker, that did include some tips for the first several stages. There was a theory that they were relatively conservative with the graphics and the enemies on this, because they knew that the Game Boy was a bad system in terms of a lot of screen blur for rapidly moving objects. So they sort of dialed it back in terms of the some of the graphics and gameplay for this to sort of play to the system's strengths. Yeah, it is very similar to Gradius. This would have came after Gradius and definitely copied some of Gradius's homework on this one. You know, for the first time I played this game, possibly all year, I forgot if I played it earlier this year, I'm doing better than I would have expected. There we go. Yeah, so now we've left the city, we're going into, like, I guess we're going through a subterranean cavern, approaching the center of the planet. You know, of course, the further you get in terms of taking out these, oh, that was so close! Okay, that was a real clincher moment. Ah, okay, no, that was just a I thought that was going to be like a mini-boss or something for a second. Oh, no! Okay. Yeah, you get moved back several steps when you take a hit, but fortunately we're able to get another upgrade capsule. So we're on our way to, once again, getting to be as strong as we were before. Now, in general, to play the most sensible and conservative option in terms of hanging on to your ships would probably be to hang out towards the bottom of the screen unless necessary. So I'm going to take my advice on that going forward. Yeah, 115,600. Yeah, I wonder if I ever got better scores. This is going to be one of those games where the further you get, you know, the more points you're just going to rack up. I mean, theoretically that's true of any game ever. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Okay. Oh, that was close. Ooh! Clencher moment. Okay. Yeah, I really have to stay... Oh, we're up to the boss. Oh, I don't think I've ever gotten further than this. Yeah, this is a big, intimidating boss. Ooh, 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 that was tough. Projectiles coming everywhere, and, yeah, game over as we crash into the ocean in spite of us being in a cave at the time. Go figure. So, what I'm gonna do, we're gonna go to our break screen, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. And when we come back, we'll play another hour of various Game Boy games, starting with, we'll give Solar Striker another spin. No. And I'll run an ad, so that we don't get interrupted when we come back. And we'll call a stream there. So I'll see you all soon. Actually, I have to set the timer. Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go. I doubt... I don't know, depending on my stamina, we might play for more than an hour. But we'll come back, we'll have at least an hour of more gameplay, and then we'll move on to the end of the stream in our raid. So I'll see you all soon. Hi. You know what? I have I just find that this particular track has an unexpectedly high frequency of instances where it happens to end. The track ends because it kind of ends with like a static effect. So let's try again. Let's see if we can beat this high score, which was our score from the previous session. Let's see how. Yeah, we'll just give it one more shot. See if we can beat the game. If we beat the game, that would be bananas. But I'm just yeah. So let's see if we can at least beat our high score from last time. Take fewer because last time was our first attempt in a long time, and I wasn't expecting to do as well as I did. In fact. Alright. Yeah, so I did take a bit of a risk there. I didn't need to in order to beat the stage because I am intending to actually get as much score as possible. Okay. Oh no! Okay. Yeah. No. No. Okay. I took 2 deaths. I took 1 death. I'm like, I was gonna restart, but like, you know what? No, we're gonna play this honestly. When I took the 2nd death while I was explaining that, like, okay, might as well start over at this point. But just 1 shot, no retries, no resets. If I bungle this up, then that's that. But it's yeah, my history. I did not know this game's. I purchased this game literally not having I purchased this game at a pawn shop that I wasn't even planning to make purchases at. I just came to, you know, collect some collateral. I did not expect to. I never heard of this game before, and I wanted to get some more Game Boy games in my library that I never heard of, that weren't, you know, the famous, you know, Konami, Capcom, Nintendo, you know, your manufactured first-party titles and those big famous third-party franchises. I wanted to get some other games in my collection. So I saw this game, and I saw the box art and everything, and I was like, you know what? This looks like this game almost looks so generic that it seems almost kind of fake. And I found that very charming. I didn't take that as a negative. That's what attracted me to this game. It just looks like such a generic space shooter. So I got it. And so then it sat in like a shoebox for the 5, maybe even 6 years. And then I accidentally discovered that this game was not only a Nintendo first-party game, but it was basically the only Nintendo. Oh, I am not doing that good. It was the only Nintendo first-party game ever to be released in the space shooter format. This isn't quite a Danmaku bullet curtain, bullet hell kind of game, but it is for me, because I suck at these games in spite of me enjoying them so much. There's something very uplifting about the idea of a single ship against an enemy, like an endless legions of hostile enemies, you know, fighting for freedom. I played Stinger for the NES. I never played it back in the day on the original NES. I played it on the Wii U Virtual Console. And the problem with that game, to me, at least, and it's not with the Twin B game on Famicom, does not have this problem. Specifically Stinger, the North American version. It is very clear to me that, well, the Japanese version of that game, the Twin B game, its bullet patterns and enemy patterns are arranged for 3-player simultaneous play, which was a major feature of that release on Famicom. In North America, you don't have the opportunity for a 3rd controller port native to the system, whereas you could do that with the Famicom. It has the 2 controllers built in, and then you have a 3rd accessory port that you could use for a 3rd controller. So you could have 3 players simultaneous on the Famicom version. You're down to 2 players max on the NES. So these bullet patterns that are arranged for 3 players suddenly are like outrageously difficult when you're only a single player. So I tried very hard. I could not get far at that game at all. And I ended up just using save stage and cheesing my way through it just to see what the levels are like. And I'm like, Yeah, there's no way someone like me could have beaten that game otherwise. What I found interesting was that there were Goemon heads, when Goemon had not even been introduced as a character in North America until the Super Nintendo era. There's no Stinger. There might be a Twin Bee game for Game Boy, which is what Stinger is part of the Twin Bee series. I think there might be a Twin Bee game for Game Gear. As far as Cute-em-ups go, you know, those cutesy science fiction shooter games, there is a Fantasy Zone for Game Gear. How about, what do I do? Yeah, let's play Tetris Attack for a minute. Yeah, let's play Tetris Attack for a minute. That'll be fun. Now I've decided to stick with Game Gear, stick with Game Boy games, not rather than Game Gear. So we won't be seeing any Game Boy Color. Well, we will be seeing some Game Boy Color compatible games, possibly, not likely at this point. But I set the Analog Pocket to stream, to broadcast those games, to make them load up in Game Boy backwards compatibility mode. Yeah, so it's funny, this game released the... Yeah, let's go with... Yeah, so the Game Boy... Yeah, let's go with Yoshi. Just to keep it traditional. So the original release of this game would have been Panel de Pon on the Super Famicom, which did not come to the United States in that form. It was localized into Tetris Attack and changed from the original Intelligent Systems sort of magical girl, fairy girl characters to the unique, to the world and settings of Yoshi's Island, which has been a recent release at the time. So, I think that, I don't know, if they had only called this this Yoshi's Panel Panic, I think we wouldn't have problems with re-releasing these games. But because they license the Tetris brand, they can't re-release the games like that. And one of the people at the Tetris company specifically says he regretted agreeing to allow Nintendo to use the Tetris brand for this game because it had nothing to do with Tetris anyway. But I think that, yeah, this game was not originally... This game came out in North America first. Nintendo basically put Intelligent Systems up to the task of making a Game Boy version of this game, specifically to play into their strategy of releasing lots of puzzle games on the Game Boy, because we had Tetris, Tetris 2, Dr. Mario, already very good selling puzzle games on the Game Boy. So Nintendo saw the potential in this game as a potential really strong Game Boy release, and so commissioned Intelligent Systems to make a Game Boy version. So this game was made with the Yoshi's Island motifs already intact, and then they went back and re-released this game. They localized this for the Japanese market and released it as Yoshi's Panapon. And the Yoshi's Panapon version of this game, I believe, actually was released on the Nintendo 3DS Game Boy Virtual Console, whereas Tetris Attack was never re-released again. Certainly not with the Tetris Attack branding. So that's why you get things like Pokemon Puzzle League. There was even Animal Crossing Puzzle League that could be unlocked in the 3DS Animal Crossing game. And then there was the interestingly non-branded, non-themed release of Puzzle League on the Game Boy Advance, very late into the Game Boy Advance's lifespan. So it was interesting, and it's interesting how outside of Japan, this series has forever been known as Puzzle League simply because of one release, one called Pokemon Puzzle League on Nintendo 64, which was called Puzzle League to sort of tie in with the idea of the Pokemon League. I mean, Nintendo just wanted more Pokemon games to come out. I believe Pokemon Puzzle League was a US exclusive, and making it the only Pokemon game aside from arguably the first Pokemon Snap to actually involve references and characters from the Pokemon anime rather than the games. Now, Galactic Boy in chat saying that they're enjoying the stream while painting with a blacklight. Oh, you know, I look forward to getting some blacklight posters and getting a blacklight lamp in my my new apartment. So I'm really curious. Are you trying to paint something that's? Are you painting using blacklight, or are you painting something that's going to look really crazy and psychedelic under ultraviolet light? I'm interested to know that. Yeah, I look forward to. I won't be painting in my new apartment, but I will be doing some drawing with colored pencils and crayons, and I look forward to that tremendously, as well as some hands-on arts and crafts stuff. Maybe some model kits of some nerdy franchises like Pokemon and Gundam, mostly Gundam. I mean, if I see some Pokemon merch and I want it, I'll get it. But I'd rather not go out of my way to give those people my money right now. I'm not really happy with the way they've conducted themselves in terms of, you know, certain patent infringement accusations and how they've treated some fan content. Now, I'm not being like, oh, I'm so mad, how dare they shut down this, like, super ambitious, you know, fan project that would be competing on the level of an actual official game. I'm not like that. I'm upset because they issued takedown notices against someone's entire channel because they had these very lovingly animated National Geographic parodies featuring different Pokemon creatures. So, like, it was very specifically, like, parodies of National Geographic, like a nature documentary, if Pokemon existed. There was nothing, like, graphic or objectionable. It's, like, very specifically, like, the Pokemon company, like, just cracking down on parody, and it was really ridiculous. You know, Nintendo, like, that's a Pokemon company specific thing. Nintendo themselves have typically been chiller with things like that. But I know at one point someone made a video. It was a completely harmless video of it was basically if a bunch of non-Mario Kart characters were in Mario Kart. It was very specifically a parody. It wasn't like, hey guys, here's this ROM hack we're making to have like Sephiroth and Little Mac and stuff in Mario Kart. No, it wasn't even like that. It was just a joke of a video of all these characters interacting in Mario Kart as though they were in their original franchises. And Nintendo, they didn't just like, it was so weird because they didn't just like, oh, they took down the video. They, like, banned the video in ways that I've never heard of anyone else doing it on YouTube, where, like, you had to go on, like, archive.org. I'm sure you can find it now, because this was, like, 2008 or 9 or so it was earlier in the history of YouTube, I think, and Nintendo's, like, they've gotten their act together more so in terms of, like, cracking down on parodies and stuff like that, but it was really uncalled for and ridiculous in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to press, you know, I honestly forgot to press. I'm gonna set the timer for 30 minutes because I forgot to press start on the timer. I should have about 30 minutes left from whenever. It wasn't exactly on the hour that I resumed the stream, so I threw another half hour into this and then go about my day. Gonna go make some ramen with my kettle, my plug-in kettle, and I will love having. I can't wait to have an actual kitchen. One thing things I look forward to making are trying a lot of, you know, tacos you can make vegetarian, and burritos you can make vegetarian easily, but I like to maybe try some more vegetarian takes on different Tex-Mex foods. I know the first Tex-Mex, you know, back when I lived with my parents and I could use their kitchen, I made East Gilliam had this recipe on YouTube for a while for some enchiladas it was really fun to make those, and I'm nostalgic for the video, but I remember how to make them. And I love, like, the sort of what I call, like, I'm not ashamed of, you know, as I grow more and learn more cooking techniques and I'll do more stuff truly from scratch, but I'm not ashamed or won't shy away from sort of the home ec sort of cooking approach where, yeah, you're using a lot of canned ingredients, but you're assembling them, heating them yourself, adding your own spices and things like that. And so I'm not ashamed of that as I get into the swing of cooking more, which is one of the things I hope to use HelloFresh for. Maybe getting just a couple of meals a week, which would be a lot less expensive than the couple of weeks I have lined up, where I will be actually getting a week of meals from them prepared to just heat up. But just one or two small meals a week, all pre-portioned and everything. So all I have to do is just cut up and do whatever I need to do to the ingredients and heat them up, and it'll be fun. One thing that's always annoyed me about Factor, and HelloFresh and Factor are actually the same company. Like, Factor is just basically the prepared meal arm of HelloFresh. But one thing that's annoyed me is that for their vegetarian options, if I get 5 days, a work week of 5 days for most people, 5 meals, perfect, right? 5, days outside of the weekend, is that when you have the vegetarian plan like I do, one of the meals is always going to repeat. They don't have enough vegetarian meals to actually have, 5 different meals each week, and that's very annoying to me. If they could have had just one more meal type, and so you're in a week. If I order 5 days for 5 weekdays, 5 meals for 5 weekdays, at least one meal's going to repeat. So I'll find whichever one repeats and order that, and have that one on the Monday if I'm doing actually Monday through Friday, which I really don't do. Especially since I usually use that for higher quality prepared meal options, to heat up in a hotel room. The hotel room for the last convention I attended was a little scary because I didn't have a microwave in it. I didn't realize I didn't have a microwave in it. I got out my meal from my little mini fridge. I poked the holes, which I usually do using a safety pin because I often use safety pins to tie back my hair when I'm attending events in public and stuff. And I realized, oh, wait a second, where's my microwave? And I was very unhappy. So I thought of okay, am I just gonna have to eat these cold? Unfortunately, I actually did go ahead and just call room service and be like, yeah, how am I gonna? I have some prepared meals. How am I gonna heat these up without a microwave? And they're like, oh, we'll have room service bring you a microwave. And I'm like, okay, that's nice, because I was pretty sure when I booked the hotel, it said that my room would have a microwave. But it turns out there were 2 towers in the hotel, and only the second tower has microwaves in each room. So they delivered a microwave to my room that I actually used the sort of not the ironing board, but the little meal, a little table thing with straps to set up, I guess, tray tables and stuff in. But like I was saying, they can imagine my VR model dressed as a chef, hat making a variety of vegetarian dishes. I doubt I'll ever do a cooking stream, but if I did, I'd probably just go full, webcam, hand cam with that. Now, one thing you could do, if I was the kind of streamer that doesn't want to break my lore, and especially if I was a non, I guess this maybe applies more to non-human streamers, with non-human avatars like me. But if you're a furry or other sort of VTuber, and you wanted to not break character and do a hand cam stream when you're unboxing things or cooking, you could always frame it as your character is watching a cooking show, and the hands would be your real life hands. Now, depending on your setup, that might be easier to do with a PNG tuber, where the PNG tuber is just reacting to your microphone and any buttons you push on a remote or a stream deck or something like that. Because if you have actual motion capture like me, it might be trickier to pull that off, but it's a way you could potentially frame your live camera elements that maybe only will feature your real life hands, of that breaking character that you're not actually the whatever your VTuber model's species is meant to be. Alright, so yeah, I think we've had enough Tetris Attack. I think it's time to move on. I want to play this. I don't want to play this all night. Let's see, what's a fun game we could play? There's Balloon Kid. alleyway. You know what? There's Trip World. You know, let's play just a little alleyway as a treat. Yeah, let's swapping out cartridges. I have these little saltine cracker-sized cartridges all over. But one thing I look forward to besides Tex-Mex stuff, which the first Tex-Mex thing I'm probably going to make is East Gilliam's enchiladas recipe, which I have fond gaming memories of. But the next, you know what? I know what the rest of the stream's going to be. We'll, regardless of how much time it takes, we'll play this till we get a game over, and I am going to try to get as far as I can in this. We'll play this till we get a game over, and then we'll play a new game, new to my stream. I may have mentioned it in the past, but it's going to be new to the stream for sure. It's going to be fun, and it's a game I haven't talked about much, and it's a game that it's a first-party Nintendo platformer for Game Boy that I never heard existed until 2007 or 8, which is very late in the game for me to first learn about this, and it's part of an established franchise, and arguably, it is the last game in the series for this Nintendo franchise. But it's a very famous Nintendo game that a very famous Nintendo personality personally worked on and conceived. So it's very interesting pedigree this game has. Yeah, I know exactly. Actually, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna play through. Now, I hope the volume... and you know what? Our final game of the day. Oh, doggone. It may be. Yeah, mystery platformer. It's maybe one you heard of, and maybe one you haven't. But even if you have, we're going to play two more platformers tonight. We're not going to beat them. We're just going to take a single, honest attempt at getting as far as we can in each of them. Just as we will. Hold on. I keep... But, Clackaboy is saying, a YouTuber made an unusual dish called Monterey Souffle. I don't think I've heard of that. It's lemon jello, mayonnaise, olives, cherry... okay, if you're going for it, if you're gonna give it a shot, bless it. I hope it comes out good. Now, as far as, like, crazy dishes go, I would probably try, tomato soup cake, which is a thing I've heard of. It's from the Great Depression, but very slightly predates it. And in the sources I've seen, even magazines and newspaper articles from, like, the Great Depression era were like, have you ever heard of, like, tomato soup cake? What a wacky idea. So even back then, it was a very eccentric concept, but apparently it worked out very well. Yeah, and here's an interesting element. So the Game Boy game we'll be playing, it is the second game in the series that it belongs to. It is arguably the last game in the series that it belongs to. And it is the sequel to something that is not a platformer. So I learned about it on Tasting History. Do you watch that channel? I watch it occasionally with a friend. But I generally don't watch those videos because I don't like being teased with all these food concepts and yummy looking recipes that I personally cannot actually make at this point. Yeah, but I will be trying. Yeah, I did not expect the school lunch, the public school cafeteria pizza episode to end up covering such a sort of very dark history as to some of the less savory aspects of American history. Yeah, the guy who he always will have a themed Pokemon plush in the background of his videos. Like Yeah, his videos are really fun, but I just don't watch them because I don't, like, I'm like, oh, I can't actually make any of this food because I don't have a kitchen yet. But I am going to have myself a little ramen feast. I'm going to have some ramen and Doritos and Gatorade for dinner. I had a arguably better lunch, but we're going low budget, local, and no delivery fee for my dinner tonight, so... And I don't have a kitchen, so my options are pretty limited, and I could make ramen in my bathroom using my my plug-in kettle and some bottled water, so... what else am I... Yeah, so... one thing I'm very much looking forward to, aside from Tex-Mex, would be... to making in my new kitchen, is going to be... It's going to be probably... why is it... I don't know why the name escapes me. Oh, Hush Puppies. I want to make Hush Puppies. I haven't had them in ages. Yeah, I had an idea for my planned first meal, but the conditions... The context in which I'll be first moving in is going to be very different, so I'm probably just going to be depending on... either... Yeah, there are places I can go in town and just to grab some takeout. Yeah, I'll probably just rely on that. Keep it simple. Or drive out and get some food for myself. Because, yeah, I might have some friends helping me move in. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And plus, I might be busy in my, I might be somewhat out of town before and after I move in. It's gonna be pretty wild. It's not gonna be like, okay, this is, you know, the week, and I'll just be moving over my stuff from my old, you know, apartment to my new one. No, it's gonna be far more complex and strenuous than that. But yeah, I do look forward to making Hush Puppies, which I understand are a very simple thing to make. I mean, Hush Puppies originally were just kind of leftover batter, and I look forward to making Hush Puppies in sort of a patty format and seeing if they maybe can make some yummy sandwiches put on a bun. You know, something like a burger, but better. Because there's certain veggie burgers I like, especially black bean burgers, but I like black bean burgers because I like veggie burgers that are not trying to be fake meat. It's not like, oh, it's made of meat, it tastes like real meat, it grosses me out. It's just that attempts at like most Impossible Burgers and things like that. Well, Impossible Burger is possibly more like meat than anything else because Impossible Burger actually does very much vary depending on how you prepare it. So, like, the Burger King Impossible Burger, I don't like. But the one Applebee's makes, I can put up with that. But I feel like putting, like, a Hush Puppy type patty on a bun I might enjoy a lot more and have more opportunities for creativity and just enjoying it as a unique thing rather than just having a fake, you know, meat substitute. But, I don't know if, yeah, I doubt, like Long John Silver's, there's a Long John Silver's near where I'll be moving, but I think they use the same oil that they cook their fish in to make their Hush Puppies and their fries, so I don't really want to eat Hush Puppies made in oil that was also used to cook fish. So yeah, I'll be making my own Hush Puppies. It'll be fun. Yeah, they're the Impossible Whopper. Honestly, I stopped going to Burger King, which is better for me in any case. You know, not getting a beef burger is going to make my Burger King options a little less explicitly unhealthy than it would be if I got a beef burger, but Burger King used to have veggie burgers that were prepared like the Whopper in every way, except that it used a veggie burger patty instead of, like, the beef patty, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite fast food things, one of, you know, my favorite guilty pleasure meals. Then, like, I guess 5 or 6 years ago already, it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, it was in 2020, they actually they signed the deal with Impossible to actually brand it as the Impossible Whopper and use the Impossible patties, and I hated it at that point. Because I'm like, the old Burger King veggie burger, it did not taste like meat, but it was a good version of its own thing. And the way Burger King prepares their Impossible Whopper, and now it just tastes like a fake version of meat that doesn't taste that good. Whereas whereas Applebee's Impossible Burger actually I think tastes pretty decent. So now when I go to Burger King, I just get fries or mozzarella sticks. I don't even bother with their burgers, and which is a real shame. I miss their old veggie burgers. Now, for a mainstream audience, that might be like I bet most Impossible Whopper sales are really more towards people who are maybe on a diet or observing Lent or things like that. So I think in that context, something that actually does taste more like real beef is going to be more attractive commercially. But what I found hilarious were all these people who were getting mad on Twitter, like, oh, how dare Burger King pander to vegetarians and vegans with this burger? Like, yeah, I'm boycotting Burger King, and I'm like, if you actually cared about Burger King catering to vegetarians, you would have been boycotting them for years, because they've had a vegetarian version of the Whopper for like a decade at that point, since like 2003, and you didn't even care. Just because you're now aware that Burger King does have a vegetarian version of the Whopper, now you want to pretend to be mad and offended that they made something that's not specifically for you. Yeah, Burger King, I mean, McDonald's I'm so shocked they have not had an Impossible or something else. For like a month or two in New York City only, they had a vegetarian, they had a veggie burger, and did not last long. I didn't make much of an impression on me, but it was just gonna be. I was hoping they were gonna actually like roll it out as a standard thing, like Burger King's veggie burger. You know, just for more than anything else, or just for when I'm with my friends. And you know, I found an old print ad, because on my Tumblr, and for those who do not know, I do have a Tumblr account, which is really just kind of a personal online curio cabinet of old ads and like fantasy and creature art and nerdy computer and video game stuff, where I guess you could say that doggone. Yeah, that's really what it is, but I found an old Burger King ad from the 50s advertising the Whopper. And I know it's possible that they were maybe exaggerating, you know, the size and appearance of the Whopper. But if it's even vaguely accurate, then wow, the king certainly has fallen in regards to the Whopper, because the Whopper actually looks like a gigantic like hamburger, whereas the modern Whopper is just like, okay, you get your basic hamburger, which is just gonna be like, you know, your basic just patty on a bun. And then the Whopper is dressed up with the mayo and the pickles and lettuce and tomato and all that. There's the difference between a Whopper and the standard burger. You know, if I continued to eat meat, I'm very certain that my nutritional health would have been absolutely annihilated by consumption of, you know, various fast food options, because I liked McDonald's a lot. I know it's crappy quality beef. You could argue how much beef was in those burgers anyway. But I enjoyed McDonald's. I enjoyed KFC a whole lot. I used to love their popcorn chicken. And I used to go to Taco Bell. I used to love, you know, their beef tacos. So now, because I am restricted to, you know, due to my personal dietary preferences, I'm no longer eating beef and chicken and all that. So my options at Taco Bell, yeah, it's crap food, but it's going to be the healthiest possible options in terms of crap food. So it's going to be like, you know, bean burritos instead of beef, so a lot less fat. You know, if I order tacos, you could order like with beans instead of beef. You know, just different things like that. Then, like for Burger King, you know, for the fries, the mozzarella sticks, because I don't even like their veggie burger. McDonald's doesn't have any options that are viable for me after breakfast time. So I've gone to McDonald's. I go to McDonald's at least once or twice a month. I'll get you know, occasionally, for if I'm doing a sit-down meal, maybe I'll get their hotcakes and scrambled eggs. Maybe I'll get an Egg McMuffin or their egg and cheese biscuit. Yeah, just eating meatless has made my fast food habits a lot. First off, I have minimal use of fast food, and it'll be even less once I'm actually have access to my own kitchen. I can't wait. Only a few more days. And yeah, and all the while I'm up to state. Oh, doggone! I spoke too soon. We only have a couple balls. There's a ball 0, so I have this ball and then one ball left. One ball in reserve is what that one down there in the lower left represents. And then we'll go on to our mystery platformer for the day. And then we'll play a second mystery platformer on the NES. It'll be very, or maybe not quite the NES. It'll be very exciting to see. No, I really am trying. I'm not trying to rush through this. I'm trying to keep the ball in play as long as possible. Okay. But I am proud to say that our show has gone on for 2 hours. And, you know, it started at 6. We're up to 8 p.m. now. And at 10 past 8, I'll have made up for that 10-minute break. So then we'll actually have had 2 hours of gameplay content. So 2-hour plus streams always, 2-hour minimum is what I'd like in terms of gameplay content. So we did meet that, but me starting the stream an hour late because it took me that much longer. I wasn't able to start working on getting the stream prepped until later in my day, so I wasn't able to get to get to starting the stream till later in the day. And I'm like, if I'm struggling like this now, there's no way I could keep this up with everything I have to get done before I move, and then even after I move. But that means that I won't be stressed out, after Anthrocon and after everything else, trying to, after my move, after Anthrocon, trying to make sure that my streaming setup's ready. I can set it up at my own pace. And I look forward to having a second desktop computer in service. Uh-oh, someone knows what's going on. Someone chose this moment right here as soon as it was available again for another Sodor lore reading, which we will now fulfill. Alright, so we're going to learn a little more about the Mid-Sodor Railway. Okay, so when first promoted, the Sodor and Mainland Railway had canvassed support from investors in the Peel-Godred area, with a promise to build them a branch from Kronk. But as the years passed, it seemed less and less likely that this promise would ever be implemented. By 1870, the people of Peel-Godred had come to the conclusion that if they were ever to have a railway, they must build it themselves. A line southwestward down the valley was favored at first. This, on the face of it, would have been the simplest and cheapest, but it would have involved a junction somewhere with the S&M. And since that company was then teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, since the company was teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, most felt that to embark on such a project would be the height of imprudence. It behooved them to look elsewhere. Some 6 miles to the west, mine owners at Casney Hawain had combined with others in the Arl Valley to build a tramway to the port of Augsburg. This 2-foot 3-inch gauge line had originally been horse-worked, but following the Skarloey Railway's lead, they had in 1866 adopted steam traction, but for mineral purposes only. It had not been inspected and passed for passenger traffic. Passengers were carried, however, but free and at their own risk, on payment of a toll for the carriage of their coats, hats, and personal belongings. This was probably done in like the coaches intended to bring the quarry workers from town and into work, just judging from my knowledge of real-life history along these lines. The Peel-Godred Committee approached the mining companies who saw advantages in the Peel-Godred connection, and following a series... Yeah, this is a pretty big section, actually, so we're going to cut it right there. And that'll probably be our last Sodor lore reading until our hiatus. So now we're just in time for the bonus stage with no extra lives. So we're not going to lose a life when we probably, most likely, lose here. But it's going to be very fun to see how close... Now, the problem with these bonus stages is that the ball tends to get in sort of a rut where without any obstacles to knock the ball off of, since the ball passes directly through the bricks in this mode, this bonus stage, it's very easy to get the ball sort of stuck in a rut where you're not able to target any new bricks. Yeah, this entire game was... I like this game because it's kind of a moment in time where they weren't quite sure whether or not the Game Boy was going to be a proper console unto itself, or if it was going to be more of just a sort of a Game & Watch type experience with interchangeable cartridges. So this is a very conservative, very simple game for the Game Boy early on in its lifespan. You know, this was a launch game for the Game Boy, released in 1989 alongside the system itself. You know, and it's kind of funny, as much as it was actually Mr. Yokoi's team that pushed him to pursue a more ambitious interchangeable cartridge system for Game Boy, an interchangeable cartridge concept for Game Boy as a proper platform. Because what Mr. Yokoi was originally conceiving of, based on different sources I've read, and this has only come out in the last, decade or so, is that Gunpei Yokoi was originally imagining something... Yeah, 1892 was our high score there. Alright, we're gonna play our mystery game now. But... our, Mr. Yokoi was originally conceiving of something more like a souped-up Game & Watch. Something that might last on the market for a couple of years, but wouldn't be a long-lived system with third-party development and a long lifespan, and something that was more of a toy than a proper game system. So, our final game for today, and until mid-July, is going to be... Okay. Yeah, I was not expecting that. I was genuinely caught off guard by that. Okay. Alright. Our final game for today. And this is the first time I booted up this cartridge in years, so I'm kind of not surprised. Okay. I didn't put it on the dock. Good. There we go. It's Balloon Kid. Yay! Yep. So Balloon Kid. Did you know that there was a sequel to Balloon Fight on the NES, released exclusively for Game Boy, exclusively in the United States at that? And it's a full-fledged actual platforming game. I was not aware of this until 2007 or 8, and I was shocked when I first learned of it. So we're going to take a swing at this. We're not going to try to beat it, but we are going to play... We'll play Balloon Trip mode first, actually, just to show this off. So, Hustina, are you familiar with Balloon Kid? So this mode, you see our character's name is Alice. We can see that on the scoreboard. They've never heard of this one. Isn't that shocking that there... Oh, shocking. She got electrocuted. That there was a full-fledged, a proper, you know, because Balloon Fight, for as famous of a game it is for the NES, it's an arcade game. It's a single... Well, there are multiple game screens, but it's not a scroller, a side-scrolling platforming experience. So you do have the Balloon Trip mode, which is the closest you get to that in Balloon Fight, as an alternate mode. Yeah, and they even brought back the Balloon Fight music for this mode. Yeah, you even brought back the Balloon Fight music. So you are familiar with Balloon Fight, though, right, Justino? If you are, then if you aren't, that's fine. But given my familiarity with you in terms of the Twitch streams you frequent, you don't seem like I would be surprised if you were not aware of. It's interesting. We have a rank thing as well as. Oh no! All right. Okay. They know so you know Balloon Fight, which is sort of an arcade game with a focus on getting a high score. This is a full-fledged platformer exclusively for the Game Boy in North America. The exclusive for the North American Game Boy library. Didn't even come out in Japan. At least not quite. So we're gonna actually play the proper platforming story mode. Alice's brother's floating away on a bushel of balloons. Oh no, time to grab a couple of balloons herself. You have 5 lives, so very generous with our lives. Yeah, scrolling to the left. Now, one interesting thing, you could release the balloons with the B button. And if you holding down, hold on. Yeah, holding down and mashing the A button, she will inflate a replacement balloon. And you could getting hit once pops 1 balloon, and yes, this town is called Pennsylvania. When I provide more extensive coverage of this game, I look forward to. I'm out of character right now. You know, I'm not I'm not Lunarian H of Redemption Center 5. I'm just me using an avatar of that character who is based on me. But as far as in-character content. In terms of story progression content for my lore. This is a game that I would say does not exist in Lunarian H's universe. It did not come to exist in his universe, and I am very excited on how I will be covering this in the context of my lore and storytelling. You know, that was our first death there. We got electrocuted by a spark, I think. But yeah, this town is called Pennsylvania. It's like pencils and matches. Yeah, so it's a very interesting game because it has a very uniquely Game Boy identity in spite of being... You know, it's funny, I used to say, and I think I even started to say it, but I got sidetracked in the stream, how Metroid 2 is one of the few games where you had a Game Boy, an NES or home console game get its full-fledged sequel be a Game Boy or handheld exclusive, and that Metroid 2 is unique in that respect. There was never a NES version of Metroid 2. It was Metroid 2 was a Game Boy exclusive, and it was and Metroid 3 was Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. But actually that's not true. If you consider Balloon Kid here a sequel to Balloon Fight, arguably you could say it's a bit of a spin-off rather than a sequel, but yeah, so if they ever, I was really crossing my fingers for Alice here to get added to the Smash Ultimate roster with the Balloon Fighter as or maybe they'd probably go with Balloon Fighter with Alice as an alternative or an Echo Fighter. And yes, there does exist speedruns of this game, but that speedrun revolves entirely around just getting as low a score as possible so that less time is spent on the scoreboards. So the speedrun in that sense is just getting a lower score so your score isn't racking up for as long at the end of the stages, which makes it an interesting, like, balloon avoidance game, or in point avoidance game, so that you don't get more points, because that's actually one of the main thing that, yeah, getting more points is the main, so we have to drop our balloons there to grab that one up. And Clackaboy is saying they were confused that Super Metroid was Metroid 3 because he didn't own a Game Boy. That must have been interesting because Super Metroid is, as Metroid 3 as it's described in its opening title sequence, is very much, it actually begins with a recap of the events of Metroid 1 and 2. And to a certain extent, you could say that Super Metroid is kind of a replacement for or a bit of a more ambitious remake or revamp of the first game. But the opening section of the game very explicitly it depends on your familiarity with the events of Metroid and the locations in Metroid. So the number of balloons you have slowly ticks down to give you your score. Yeah, they very much wait for you to press A or start to go to the next stage, which is interesting. You know what? So we'll play this. I decided how I'm going to end the stream. We'll play this for another couple minutes. Actually, nah, we'll just go ahead. We'll just cut to the chase. We'll put off... We have 5 minutes since I put off that break. And we need to go to a different layout. We need to go to... Yeah, there we go. It worked. Okay. So... Alright. Alright, so now... So this is how... This is my sort of... I made a general, like, non-widescreen layout. Yeah, but it's... If you go to games.supertrainstationh.com, which I have not updated in over like 15 years at this point, I think. But if you go to games.supertrainstationh.com, you will find that I have a review of the game that only has screenshots from the first couple of stages. Because that's actually as far... I've only played up to World 3, and I forgot how many worlds there are in all. But what we need to do is... confirm. So we're going to go to OpenFPGA, console, NES. So we're going to play a Famicom game, Japan exclusive, by Character Soft, called Hello Kitty World, that released in 1992. Huh, this music's awful familiar, isn't it? And it has a 2-play... Yeah, completely different game, obviously, but, yeah, so they ported this Game Boy game to the Famicom. They flat out... which is the only example... This is the only example I know of a Game Boy game being ported to the NES like this. And it was not ported as Balloon Kid, it was ported as a Hello Kitty tie-in. And this is officially sanctioned and authorized by Nintendo. Yeah, this is a game that could very much have different characters put in. But the cutesy, floating around on balloons, the rather non-threatening nature of the game overall, it's very much something that fits in with the Hello Kitty's world and characters. Alright, so we'll be covering this as well as Balloon Kid later. But, for now, that'll be the end of my streaming season for now, so to speak. I'll be back on the Saturday the 18th, the third Saturday of July, with a, starting a sort of playthrough gauntlet type thing of the Super Mario Brothers games on NES. But the first stream will have some NES variety at the beginning to sort of establish a baseline of what NES games were like, or what Famicom games were like before Super Mario Brothers, because it's very easy to forget that there was once a time. In North America, from a North American's perspective, Super Mario Brothers was essentially a launch game. But for NES, but for Famicom, the NES had been going on for the Famicom had been going on for a couple of years. And on top of that, Super Mario Brothers was the biggest, most ambitious NES game ever, whereas to a North American audience, we had these arcade games and Super Mario Brothers from the beginning. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give a raid to Barface, who's I don't know what they're playing, but I know Barface is cool, and I'm going to say hi to him. All right, so I'll see you all in about a month, and thank you very much for watching. Now, where's my window to actually execute the raid? Why do I keep doing this to myself? I keep clicking off. Hey, Mecha Kong, you came in just in time to say goodbye, but say hi to Barface.